So, okay, so now the 50s. The 50s in Niles, I know one big thing was the flood. Were you affected by the flood?
He was. I was babysitting in Irvington. Never got to see it.
I was in the Navy, but I was stationed in Hamilton Air Force Base in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my own nice little car, 41 Chevy, and I come home every weekend. And so that day, I came home. It probably was a Friday evening, and I made it all the way to Niles, and got to Niles, and then it started raining, and raining, and the water, we could see down past our house. It was just like a lake. All the streets were starting to fill up. Well, it came up to our house porch, and that's the highest it went.
Oh, wow.
We
So
were
you were
really lucky, because everybody else from there down got flooded out.
So did things change in the 50s? Like new stores, or was Big Daddy's?
That was there when I was in high school. It was
Did
built,
you go there
Yes,
at
I
that
went there a
time?
lot. I remember meeting some girlfriends from high school there for hamburgers just after we got out of high school. So that was in 1958. And sadly, it's been an empty lot for over 20 years.
Sure.
It's just,
When all the bars closed, everybody went there for breakfast. You know,
yeah, I guess.
Oh, you mean like
two-
at 2 o'clock in the
2
morning? Or
o'clock
so?
in the
So they
morning.
were open late, or maybe all
I
night?
think they
guess,
were 24 hours.
I don't know.
At one
Okay.
time, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was a great place for breakfast. They gave you a great, lot of food.
If we wanted to, as high school kids who had car, Arlene DeGiulio King, my good friend, she was the only one that had a car. Her mother didn't drive, and so we always had Arlene with us, and we would go lots of places because Arlene had a car. And we would usually leave town because there wasn't a whole lot going on in Niles or Fremont, to say. So we would go to a place called it escapes me now, but it's in San Leandro, and we go to Pring's, but there was, what was the name of the place that we used to go around and around and,
Like the strip?
well, this was around the restaurant.
Harold, not Harold.
No, but we would go to there, or else we would go to
Andy's
Santa's.
was.
Yeah, Andy's was more a different place.
There's a
yeah.
restaurant that you pull up and
It
you
was
get
a
service to your
drive-in.
car. A drive-in.
Sort of like a drive-in,
Drive-in,
yeah.
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 They had two, one in Hayward and one in San Leandro. And you go there, like you say, driving around.
Or we would go to San Jose to the Holland Creamery. 'Cause
Uh-huh.
we wanted to go out of town.
Right.
We wanted.
There wasn't really a whole lot. I mean,
Well, you
In
go to
town,
the
no.
creamery. We went to the
Oh, the
creamery a
cre-
lot.
yeah,
yeah,
Creamery,
Cloverdale
but-
Creamery, that's
Right.
true.
Oh,
They
that
had a jukebox in there, too.
We went to the creamery a lot.
Everybody went to the
Yeah.
creamery. Yeah, well,
Uh-huh. That was Cloverdale Creamery.
Cloverdale
That's right.
Creamery.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been
Best
a,
milk chase in town.
right.
It's so sad when it closed.
Yeah, sure.
One of the
Yeah.
saddest days.
So the 50s were sort of like quiet. I mean,
Yeah,
so you would say Niles, when the stores closed, there was
Everything closed.
Every-
besides the
yeah.
bars, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of
Oh.
bars, a lot of barber shops, and a lot of gas stations.
yeah.
For some reason,
7 gas stations or 8 gas stations.
at one time there were 7
And
Wow.
from one end
5
of
or
town
6
to the
six
other.
bars. 6 bars.
Now we only have 1.5 bars.
Yes.
What Niles had too started what was called S&A days.
Oh, that's right. I've
They
heard
had-
of
they
that.
had- Well, it started out with
Pretty early, huh?
They had parades, and then later on they closed the town, you know, on a Sunday, and they had all the antique
Now then
people.
they had the antique fair.
Antique fair.
When did that start? In the
Well,
60s?
we
I would
moved
think.
into the house in
I'd say-
'66.
I'd say the early 60s.
Yeah, I think so. In fact, I think we were coming to Niles from where we lived in Centerville. We would come to Niles before we bought the house to see I don't think the antiques fair had started yet, though. I don't recall. Couldn't tell you. Arlene could probably tell you, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I know that as soon as we moved to that house, our house was party central.
Sure.
Everybody came.
Because you're right
Well,
there, right in the middle, right?
Everybody wanted to park. One year I told, okay, you can come, sure, you can come park. And I thought Dave was going to have.
We had a big
There was
backyard.
no
We could
place
get-
to park.
We
a big
had about
backyard.
10 cars back
We
there.
could get, no, I didn't have.
Well, and then we said no more.
We could get 5 or 6 cars in the backyard.
And then all down the driveway.
So tell me, you never told me about like when you got married and where you were married and then what happened after you got married.
We got married in 1961 in August in Corpus Christi Catholic Church in Niles.
Okay, in Niles, good.
And I had my sister as my maid of honor, and Arlene DeGiulio King and Linda Winkle were my bridesmaid. And David had Pete Sally, who went to Washington High but lived in Sonoma. They had the choice. They could go either to Amador or to Washington. And Tom Meeker and Manuel Garcia.
And they were Niles?
And
Tom was...
Tom lived on High Street in
Okay.
but they were all good friends of David's in high school. And then as soon as then we married, and then we lived in Irvington for a while in the Peixote house because Delbert had to go in the service, so we just rented the house from him.
Where was that?
That was on Max Drive in Irvington, right off of Grimmer, right between Grimmer and Paseo. Grimmer between Paseo Padre and Fremont Boulevard, that part of Grimmer. There's there's High Street and Max Drive. And we lived there for a year and a half. And then we lived in an apartment for 3 years, and then
In Irvington?
well, we lived the house in Irvington, then we lived in the apartment in Centerville across from Holy Spirit. At the Pepper Tree Apartments.
Right, the Pepper Tree
Yes,
Apartments.
they were kind of
They have
new.
that giant pepper tree there,
And the
don't
house
they?
in front,
That was a nice
yes,
place.
it was.
Yes,
it was.
I remember when it
Had a
was
lot of
built.
fun.
We went to Lake
Yeah.
Tahoe for our honeymoon, and that's when they were starting to put in the new streets in Tahoe, make them wider, and oh my gosh, it was awful because it rained and the streets were all muddy, but we had a good time. It was really, really nice.
And
But-
what kind of work did you do? Or did you,
Uh,
when you first got married?
When we first got married, did you work for UTC?
yeah, I guess it was
Yeah, and
United Technology Corporation. They were in Coyote in San Jose. And they built
some kind
rocket
of rocket.
motors.
Yeah, a rocket.
for
Rocket motors.
For the space, well, not for the spaceship, but
For the space program.
space program. And I worked there for a few years, and then
Got to be so hard with him gone at night all the time.
it was a commute.
The
It
commute
worked 12
was
hours
horrible.
a day, and that was a rough commute for a while. And then I worked for the phone company for a year or two, and then Alameda County Water for a year or two.
And finally the city for
I
20
finally
something.
they were hiring in the city, and with
The city of Fremont?
City of Fremont,
Oh.
and luckily got hired. And there I stayed for
So what department?
25 years.
What department were you in?
Public Works,
Public
street
Works?
maintenance.
All right.
In the last 5 years, I drove a sweeper. For the last 5 years I was there, which is nice.
Yeah.
It was a good job, great job.
And how about you?
I went
when
to
you-
work, I was going to go to college in Oakland to become a dental assistant, and I was going to Oakland City College, and I was also having some dental work done with Dr. Grimmer, whose office was right next door to my mother's now because they had moved to Centerville. And he asked me if I would like to come to work for him, and I said yes. My mother was very upset with me. She wanted me to finish college, but it was what I wanted to do, and he wanted to train me. And I didn't think it would last very long. I thought I'd do something else. This was not maybe what I wanted, but turned out it was
As a bookkeeper then?
no,
or
I was
as-
everything. An
You were-
assistant, a bookkeeper, PR, marketing, everything. It was just a
Everything.
one-girl office,
Mhm.
other than the hygienist. He had hygienists there too.
So this was Dr.
Dr. Chuck Grimmer, Dr.
Grimmer.
Elmo Grimmer Jr.,
Okay.
whose father was a prominent physician here.
Well, yeah, his father was our family doctor. He brought all of us into,
Oh, really? So you knew Dr. Grimmer, Dr. Elmo Grimmer?
The father. I did
Right.
not, he died in 1956. I didn't go to work for Dr. Grimmer until 1958, so I never was able to meet him. But I started working with Dr. Grimmer, and I loved my job, and I just loved him. He was like a second father. In fact, when he died, I said, my mother raised me the first 18 years, but he raised me the rest.
Rest.
'Cause I
So
worked
right out of
26 right out of high school, just about 6 months.
Wow. And then did you continue to, first of all, do you have children?
No children.
Oh,
I was
okay.
unable to have children.
Okay, so you continued to just work with him, and that was just.
I worked
so-
for him until that day he told me he was going to retire.
How long was that?
Oh, it was in 1984, and
Whoa.
when I went to work for him, he was 44 years old. When he retired, I was 44 years old, and I thought I probably won't be able to find another job, and because I was older and so forth. But it turns out that I had a reputation, and I was able to find a job with no problem.
Wonderful.
But I worked for him for 26 years, and then after he retired, I lived around the corner from him, as it turned out, all these years, and so I saw him all the time. And then after his wife died, I used to see him almost every other day or so. I'd go over and we'd have a little tiddly, and he'd tell me his stories of his growing up.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How fascinating.
Sometimes he would tell the same stories over and over, but it was always fun.
So he lived in Niles also.
He did.
Where
around
did
the
he
corner
live?
from us, around the corner.
Just over on.
Right around the corner.
So we'll sort of wrap it up now, but I just wanted to ask you, maybe what sticks out in your memory of what you remember most about living in Niles?
One of the things that I remember mostly that I look back on now was the freedom we had and the safety we had. My mother never worried about us. She always knew we were safe. And we used to take the railroad tracks and take our bikes all over everywhere. And as the years started changing, people started dying off and the family started leaving. And I don't know many of the people in Niles except the ones that live right close by me anymore. And that's a sad part I miss. But and I miss the community that we had then, because you could walk down the street, you'd see somebody coming out of the store, and you knew who that was. Or if you went into the store, especially New City Market, you knew the people. Everybody talked, and and we had a wonderful library. Sad now, the library's only open I think one day a week or something like that. And the library was my favorite place to go to take out books. But I loved living in Niles. I have no regrets at all. It was a
Wonderful.
wonderful time for me.
Yeah, I'll say about the same thing. You knew everybody, and everybody knew you. If you got in trouble, my father would hear about it real quick. and that was I talk about knowing everybody. I had a paper out, Local Tribune,
Oh,
and I had at one time, 95 papers to deliver. And I had on a bicycle. And you would fold them up and drive by the house and just throw them on the porch. And all my customers always liked me because I always got the paper on the porch. It was raining or something, And so I got a lot of tips. But the worst part of having that route was collecting the money at the end of the month. A lot of people say, well, we don't have it now. And so it would come out of my salary, And that was kind of rough at times. But I got a dime of paper. And so I got $90 a month, which was nice at that age. I was, 11, 12. Yeah, around 11, 12 years old. And, well, the saddest part on my side, when my mother died, it was a big, it was 39. She died from polio, and she was the only second person in Alameda County to die from polio.
what year was that?
49.
1949.
And I was a freshman in high school, and we were quarantined, and we had to sit on the front porch. People walked by, they couldn't come in the house, and we couldn't leave for about a week or two. People would bring us food and stuff, but they were scared that they didn't know about polio back in those days. They thought it would spread, My older brother got a slight touch of it, but he got over it, got real lucky, but
Hers affected her lungs, and she was in an iron lung
iron lung,
in Oakland.
last-
Never saw her again.
last few weeks of her life is an iron lung.
Do they know how she got it?
No,
Whoa.
no idea.
I used to think in the creeks and things like that.
Yeah, but other than that,
course,
just
that
growing up
would
in Niles,
be-
a small town,
Right.
like Susanne said, you knew everybody knew you. and,
They were everybody's so nice.
Yeah.
And working with Dr. Grimmer and him being on the school board, all the patients were family.
He was on the Niles,
Washington
Washington
High
High School Board. Okay.
when I was in high school.
When you were in high school.
And then he continued that for several years afterwards, but then he quit it. But we had teachers and families, and so our practice was like a family.
Right.
It was.
You knew it like neighbors.
Yes, right, and you don't see that anymore. I went to work for another dentist for 20 years, and it was very nice, and he was wonderful to me.
Who did you work for?
I worked for Wes Murakami, who is now retired also.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't work in the back anymore. I stayed up front and did all the insurances and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just a little different.
Sure.
You didn't have the contact with the patients as you did. But I was so grateful for what I
Right.
had with Dr. Grimmer. It
Right.
was just wonderful to me.
So is there anything else you want to comment on?
Well,
Or
I'm
say.
glad I went to work at the International Kitchen because I met my husband and we've been married for
Yeah.
55 years now.
So you were both working there, and what were you doing there?
He was a bartender
Well,
once in a while.
Bartending it.
He lived there.
Yeah, they had apartments in the back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the owners of the corners knew my parents, and so when I had a chance, I was getting out of service and looking for places to live.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, and we have an apartment that nobody's using, and it was great. It was all wood inside. It was an old place.
I
But it was
remember
all,
big.
it was all
big-
furnished, and that's what I just moved
Oh,
in there.
great. So right after, this was when you,
56 or 7, I guess?
56 and 57, yeah.
so this, when did, you graduated from high school in
52.
52, so
This
I
was
spent
after
4
the
years in
Navy.
the service.
after the service.
After
And what
service.
service were you in, and where
Navy.
did you,
Navy. I was stationed at, my first duty was 2 years in Honolulu, Hawaii,
and what year was this?
1950. I was stationed there in 53 and 54.
Oh, okay.
And every weekend I went to Waikiki, and it was,
Boy, what
I had a 2-year vacation paid by the United States government. Fantastic. And then I came back and I was stationed at the Hamilton Field in Nevada.
okay.
I was a chauffeur for a captain,
Oh, okay.
so I had a real good.
Good duty there.
So that
Great.
was
Yeah.
good life
Anything
so,
else
so
then?
far.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just wish we didn't have as much traffic as we have now.
Well, that's what I hear.
Oh,
I hear it's
Yeah.
hard to get in and out of Niles
It
at
is
certain
very
hours.
hard to get in and out of Niles. You want to leave before
get
3
early or late.
or late.
Right.
Right. And we have to time there's just a little window. And Mission San Jose is the same way.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
It is,
Oh.
very much so.
Have these crazy people who think they're really making time getting off the freeway.
I just think we're so fortunate growing up here at the time
Oh.
Yeah.
we grew up.
And you really didn't need a car when you
No.
lived
No.
in Niles.
Oh, we went all over the
We
bicycles.
could walk or take a
All over.
bicycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really nice.
And we have, in Niles, we've always said we have this wonderful, wonderful love relationship from grammar school on.
Right.
We just love each other. We love seeing each other. We get together as often as we can.
Really
So
great.
it's been a good life.
Well, thank you very much
Well, thank
for
you.
telling me
Welcome.
your
It
story.
was great.
Okay, thank you.
All right.